Hello, good evening, live from the News Hub here at Desawe Kanda in Accra. This is News at 10. Our last bulletin for the day. You can hear us live on 3FM 92.7. Follow our live stream on Facebook and on 3news.com. TV3 is also live on DSTV channel 279. I'm Stephen NT. Let's start with the major news highlights of the day. The 16 remaining Electoral Commission officials whose petition led to the sacking of the chairperson, Charlotte Osei, have threatened to use all legal means to ensure her removal is permanent and cast in stone. Tonight, the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, Pius Enam Hajide, and the Board Chairman of the National Sports Authority, Kwejo Ba Ajimai, have been officially reinstated. This was confirmed in a statement from the presidency issued on Monday, July 9. This comes after President Akufo-Addo announced that the investigation into the recent Australia Commonwealth Games visa scandal showed that Mr. Hajide was not complicit in any wrongdoing. On the last one of 4 flats of the dilapidated Kaiser Flats blocks has been pulled down. The demolition brings to an end the exercise by the Tema Development Corporation TDC based on recommendations by the National Disaster Management Organization NADMO. Elsewhere in Ashanti region, Asantehene Otumfuo Seitutu II has successfully gone through the biometric registration of the Ghana card at the Menchia Palace in Kumasi. He asked the National Identification Authority and other interest groups to ensure all eligible Ghanaians benefit from the registration process. Those were our major news highlights. Up next is a big one. Welcome back. Now, the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, Pius Enam Hajide, and the Board Chairman of the National Sports Authority, Kwejo Ba Ajimai, have been officially reinstated. This was confirmed in a statement from the presidency issued on July 9. It comes after President Akufo-Addo announced that the investigation into the recent Australia Commonwealth Games visa scandal showed that Mr. Hajide was not complicit in any wrongdoing. He was suspended alongside Acting Director General of the National Sports Authority, Robert Safo Mensah, on April 12 for their alleged roles in a visa racketeering scandal during the 2018 Commonwealth Games. At least 50 persons who claimed to be journalists and were in Australia to cover the Commonwealth Games were arrested and repatriated for bearing false identities. Right, let's get on to Skype now and speak with Michael Boydi, who is the Corporate Affairs Manager of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, joining us now. Good evening, sir. Thank you extremely. We're grateful for your time. I remember speaking with you earlier this afternoon on radio, and the critical question I wanted to find out from you is, if you look at how the whole thing has been managed, the president openly suspended the deputy sports minister, and to tell Ghanaians that he was not complicit at a public forum like that, at a political rally. How does that strike you, considering that the report of the committee has not even been published?
Well, I think that, good evening to your viewers. I think that, like you earlier said, he openly told Ghanaians that he had suspended, and he had openly told Ghanaians that he's recalling them back. So on that score, there isn't anything to make of it. There isn't any problem with it. But the worry to many Ghanaians is that it's becoming one too many, where allegations are made, investigations are conducted, and then the president then makes a statement to absolve all the people that the allegations are made against them, or the individual that the allegation is made against them, and that ends the whole story. I don't think that it goes a long way to help in the fight against corruption. Because, say, like I always tell people, if you even critically look at the of the mandate of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, apart from investigating and prosecuting corrupt practices, he also has the added responsibility of preventing corruption or educating the public. And therefore, when such allegations are made and investigations are conducted, it also beholds on the investigative body or even the presidency to allow the investigative body to use the opportunity to educate the larger populace or the Ghanaian populace. Also, it is not enough for the president to say there is nothing wrong with them, so I have absolved them. Much as we want to uphold the integrity of public officials, we also want to uphold the integrity of processes that are used in the investigation, and therefore a certain level of transparency or even a greater level of transparency is required to put paid to some of these matters.
So, Mr. Body, how would you rate the president in terms of transparency? You just spoke about transparency. I want us to focus a little bit on that. With the processes that were followed and how the president handled this, would you say it was transparent enough?
I don't think so. I am not too comfortable with the way the populace or the Ghanaian populace are kept in the dark as to the processes that went into the investigation and how the individuals or persons came to be cleared. We don't necessarily want people to be convicted. We are happy if people are because what in this country corruption, and therefore if individual is a good thing insofar as and certain actions are taking place or certain acts are taking place and those acts borders on corruption or infraction of the law, it is important that we get to the bottom of it and clarity is brought to bear on the processes that leads to the conclusions that the president so announces. And therefore, it is important that the current report is published, is made public for the whole Ghanaian public to see and evaluate for themselves, and then to indeed say that, well, it is welcoming for the president, given what they are privy to, for the president to reinstate the individual. Other than that, you only have ended up casting doubts in the process, and so it then gives credence to the people who says that the presidency is being used as a clearinghouse, so people just get cleared, and people don't know what process led to the clearing. I think that, you know, we don't necessarily want to find people guilty, but at least let us know what went into it. What are the lessons that there is to learn in all these processes, so that we will go forward. Even for us, people in the anti-corruption fight would know where we place our energies in terms of, you know, engaging the populace and even the public officials in the fight against corruption.
Right. So, Mr. Wadi, quickly, will the Ghana Integrity Initiative be pushing for the publication of the full report?
Well, I said it when you interviewed me at 6 o'clock that we are demanding the report, and I'm also using your medium to ask the president that we humbly plead of him that let's lift the bar of transparency and accountability a bit higher by making these reports available to the populace so we can all analyze and come to the same conclusion. I think when we do so, we carry people behind us. You see, because the fear that we have is that when you continue to clear people and people don't know the basis for which you clear, it leaves a certain conclusion that, oh, well, business as usual, nothing had changed. And therefore, it takes people away from the commitment to contribute to the fight against corruption. We are encouraging every citizen. If you look at the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, it's encouraging everybody to get involved. But we need some basis. We need to have a certain demonstration that indeed the people in high places are ready and willing to support the citizenry to fight corruption, and therefore reports and transparency in these sort of investigations will go a long way.
Right, Mr. Bode, I'll have you hold briefly. I'll get back to you and take your view on one other issue. The National House of Chiefs has waded into the controversy surrounding the acquisition of some 275 mini buses for 275 constituencies by the newly elected chairman of the governing New Patriotic Party, NPP, Freddie Blay. The President of the House, Togbe Afede, says the move by Freddie Blay has deepened the corruption perception. Togbe Afede has lauded talks about the special prosecutor investigating the matter.
Some time ago, it was one party building a multi-million-dollar headquarters. We all sat down and did not complain. And more recently, it's some aspiring chairman of a party buying several 275 vehicles. These are matters that should attract an attention. And I'm very happy that at least the later one has attracted the attention of the special prosecutor. Too many times we hear wranglings between government and various anti-corruption agencies. That is not good for our country. All of that wrangling again suggests lack of transparency, and we have to work very hard in a non-partisan fashion to reduce those perceptions.
Right, so we have heard that there. So, Mr. Bode, to wrap up with you, I need quickly to ask you whether you think Togbe Afede's calling for, or more like lending his support to those who are calling for the special prosecutor to investigate the purchase of these 275 buses are stretching it a bit too far. Would you say so?
Well, I wouldn't say that they are stretching it too far. You see, we need to move away from the idea that anytime you call for investigation, you are alleging a crime. No, I think when we say, when we want, with our public officials or duty bearers come to us and ask for our vote, one of the things that they silently promise us is that they would protect the integrity of our purse. They would ensure that there is transparency. They will be more accountable to the citizenry. And therefore, when people call for investigation, they are only saying that let us get some accountability. And therefore, I would say that it would be very good, and it will be in the interest of even Honorable Freddie Blay to even publish the source of income. I'm not alleging any corruption, but they can publish their source of income and how these buses are going to be procured. And I believe that it will also, apart from this whole thing about investigation and the allegation of crime, it would also give confidence in the public, in also the government. People will have a lot more confidence in the fight against corruption, or the president's quest to rid this country of corruption. So it is both ways. We call for investigation so that the facts will be known better. But why do you even go this far? The chairman can say, okay, well, we're going ahead and publish the source of the funding, and everybody can then scrutinize and say, well, it is a welcome development, and therefore other political parties who may want to raise resources can begin to look at such ventures.
Right,
it solves every problem.
Mr. Michael Bode, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely. Michael Bode is the programs manager of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. I'm Stephen Enti. This is News at 10, and we're live on 3FM 92.7 as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the Ministry of Communications has submitted all relevant documents regarding the controversial Kelny GVG contract to the Attorney General's Department, pending filing at the court registry. The move follows an order by the Human Rights Division of the Accra High Court, presided over by Justice Anthony Yeboah, that the documents on the contract be made available. Two individuals, John Ato Bonfo and Nana Adum Kanyi, as well as pressure group, the Citizens Movement of Ghana, Citizens Ghana Movement, who fear the implementation of the contract could breach their rights to privacy, sought an injunction against the implementation of the traffic monitoring, revenue assurance and mobile money monitoring common platform. The ministry's attempt to block the order from being effected last week failed. Well, let's get on to the telephone line. Sandra Frimpong is the communications specialist at the Communications Ministry. She's joining us on the telephone lines now. Good evening and thank you extremely. So what can you tell us about these documentations that have been released and ready to be filed at the court registry?
Yeah, good evening and thanks for having us, Kevin. Today, the Ministry of Communications made available the relevant documents pertaining to the Kelny GVG contract to the Attorney General's Department, and then they subsequently filed at the registry of the Human Rights Court as the judge requested we do. If you could remember, on Thursday we went to court, and then a group and then other Ghanaian citizens requested that they needed the contract. But per the request they sent to the ministry, there were no addresses made available for the ministry to send the documents to. So therefore, the ministry was unable to release the documents to them. So in the knowledge of the judge, he said, since there were no addresses made available by the individuals, then we should give the documents to the registry.
Right. So, Sandra, Sandra, may I come in? You raised an issue of no address to send these documents, but it's been about 6 months now since the request to have these documents were put in. So I want to find out from you what changed.
I don't know where you're coming from, Mr. Auntie. If you say it's been 6 months, then I think maybe we are talking about two different things here, because it's not even been up to 3 weeks that the group made a request to have the said contract. And then, like I said, they provided no addresses of which we should send the contracts to. So the ministry cannot just wake up and then say we are just going to give the contract to who? Because there were no addresses of which we should send the contracts to. It's not been 6 months.
Right. So my reference to six months is in connection with the ministry demanding, actually requesting that length of time to be able to cough up these documents. But that aside, nonetheless, there have been questions of privacy and other things raised by the petitioners and the Citizen Ghana movement who made the request. But have these concerns been addressed?
Yes, Mr. Auntie, right from day one, we assured Ghanaians that the issue relating to privacy has been addressed. It is not, let me say, it is even a non-starter in the first place. Kelny GVG has no authority or has no right to snoop or intrude in anybody's conversation, whether it is data, whatsoever thereof. The architecture of the common monitoring platform has been well-laid to the extent that a filtering server was installed. And then it gives Kelny GVG no authority to intrude in anybody's conversation. So the issue of privacy, it's not even valid.
All right. So how much money has so far been paid to Kelny GVG as we speak?
I don't have any documents with me right now. I am at home. So if I knew we were going to talk about money, then I would have prepared for it.
I guess
when I have the document, on the top of my head, I wouldn't want to give a figure. But
yeah,
when I have the document,
I know you're not giving us a figure, but I want to find out if you have an idea whether they've been paid at all. Any money has been advanced to them.
They started working, so obviously if somebody is working,
so
then
some money has been money has
Exactly.
been advanced. Right. We're grateful for your time, though. I thank you extremely. Sandra Frimpong is a communications specialist at the Ministry of Communications, and we shall use all legal means to ensure that her removal is permanent and cast in stone. These are the words of the 16 remaining Electoral Commission officials whose petition led to the sacking of the Commission's chairperson, Charlotte Osei.
At a media briefing in Accra, the group said some practices by the former EC chair were criminal. Senior electoral assistant at the EC head office in Accra, Rabiu Suleimana, noted the next step in their fight is to petition the office of the special prosecutor.
The fight for probity and accountability in the activities of Ms. Charlotte Osei at the Electoral Commission is by no means over. We are making preparations to submit these complaints to the Office of the Special Prosecutor for investigations and possible prosecution of Ms. Charlotte Osei. We believe it should serve as a source of inspiration to many others to advance the cause of our nation by bringing public office holders to book when they act against the laws of our land. No one is above the law.
Senior electoral supervisor in the Ashanti region and leader of the petitioners, Forsen Ampofo, said the group seeks to protect the interests of the nation.
We are a staff of the Electoral Commission and we know what is going on in the Electoral Commission. Nobody can incite us to do this. We do it by ourselves. It's nobody, not any party.
A lawyer for the petitioners, Maxwell Opoku-Ajamai, confirmed his clients are bent on taking the issue further.
Apart from what we submitted to the committee, we have also received a lot of documents after. We are compiling them all. They want the special prosecutor to even go further and constitute an investigation into how the 800 million Ghana cedis which were given to the Electoral Commission for the 2016 election, how the procurement processes went through.
The media briefing by the EC petitioners was to clear what they termed misinformation that they were faceless petitioners.
And in other stories, Asantehene Otumfuo II has successfully gone through the biometric registration of the Ghana card at the Menchia Palace in Kumasi. He asked the National Identification Authority and other interest groups to ensure all eligible Ghanaians benefit from the registration process. Here's a report by our correspondent Benjamin Edu and Rahel Odami Educhumwa.
The Ghana card registration process at the Menchia Palace involved some paramount chiefs in the Ashanti Kingdom. The Asantehene Otumfuo II received his card Monday when officials of the National Identification Authority processed his registration. The implementation of the National Identification System is among government's key processes to formalize the Ghanaian economy. The Asantehene encouraged Ghanaians to take active part in the process to register for the card. He also urged all stakeholders, especially the NIA and the minority in Parliament, to deliberate dispassionately on concerns to ensure all eligible Ghanaians benefit from the process.
The
NIA has rumored of omitting some people from their process, but with their presence here, they made things clearer. The NIA must intensify its education on requirements for registration.
Chief Executive Officer of the NIA, Professor Kenatefwa, said the authority is working to ensure all eligible applicants are registered. He said the exercise has been successful in the areas covered.
The National Identification Authority was in Kumasi last week to register the National House of Chiefs. Took advantage of our presence in Ashanti region to also register judges in Ashanti region, members of the Ghana Bar Association Ashanti region branch.
That's how we wrap up with News at 10. I'm Stephen Nt. Thank you very much for making time on behalf of the crew. Good night. There is more news at 3news.com.